WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
Having AI in our businesses is not just a luxury anymore, Dennis. And I'm glad to say that I helped at least show you the light when it comes to AI.
You got me hooked, brother. I'm hooked.
Absolutely. Well, AI is also not the domain of any one particular type of business. It's not the entity of only one particular size of business. It's for really everybody. And that is really never more underscored than AI in the small business nowadays.
Yeah, and we've got someone joining us today he's really into AI, but he's a business owner and he owns three different businesses and is incorporating AI into his business. And so he talks today about how he uses it and how it's helped him be successful. And I think, if especially if you're not into AI a lot yet, Brett Wade joins us to give you some insights and some thoughts there's some good points in here, Benny, about how you can get started and think about it. And I think as a listener, you're going to really enjoy this conversation today.
There's a lot of insight that Brett shares with us today, a little bit about from his real world experience, how he deals with it with his clients, and just some different ideas that I love to hear about from other people who are incorporating AI. So this is a really interesting topic today. Let's have a listen. Dennis, from a overarching impact, you know that I'm a big AI fan, and
Yeah, you are the king. I still think you started AI. So,
well, I wish, boy, that I tell you, artificial intelligence is something that we tout as being absolutely revolutionary in terms of the way it is useful for businesses. And a lot of people I've actually talked to think that artificial intelligence really, other than some basic things that we can do for ourselves, like talking to Chat GPT and asking what kind of exercise routine I should be doing, it's really the domain of the big companies. That's the big companies are going to be, they have the horsepower, they have the processes that AI can kind of come in there. Me as a small business owner, I'm not really going to be able to take advantage of that. And I think that's bunk, Dennis. That's just not really the truth.
I agree. To me, AI is actually a huge win for small businesses because it
Yeah.
allows you to do so much more and move quickly. Where I know we talked on previous podcasts, large companies, they got to go through all the corporate minutia and all the approvals and all this, and they got to test everything.
Hmm.
Small businesses, as long as you're not doing something illegal, you can roll it out. And if you don't like it, you switch it and change again. And so AI
Yeah.
gives you that much more broader reach to do different things much faster, in my mind.
So we are bringing in another AI expert who kind of specializes in that small business space and understands this a little bit. Brett, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Benny. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and so I get to work
Absolutely.
with both these guys periodically throughout, and so I'm surrounded by AI experts. So, and they
So
are great. And the best part about it is they're down to earth. So as your listener, these are not they're not trying to be like real techie. They're trying to be problem solvers, showing AI as a tool to make you more productive. And Brett, you own a couple smaller businesses and then you've got a consulting business as well. And I know in working with it, you apply AI in all kinds of different approaches of what you do.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I really, I strive, and so my two smaller businesses I have. One's in pest control, one's a health and wellness business. So very disparate concepts, but I really try and look for opportunities to incorporate AI to capture some efficiencies in those, and then of course, yeah, on the consulting side. Advising clients and pulling AI into the work I do on a day-to-day basis. I think, for me, like one of the keys, and I really believe that small business is actually better poised than large business to take advantage of it. And one of the keys to that is that, small business doesn't have to get these giant efficiencies for it to really make an impact. Large businesses, they have these high degree of fidelity. They're really looking to pull people out of processes 100%. And when you have to pull someone out 100%, it really it increases the demands on the solution. I use self-driving cars as a good example of that, right? Everyone was talking about how self-driving cars would be here, and they're not, because even though people don't drive with 100% efficiency, there's a demand that those self-driving cars have 100% efficiency. If you still have to be paying attention while the self-driving car drives, then it doesn't add as much value. And so you see that a lot, I feel like, in large business, where you have something and you say, and the value they're looking at is I can pull someone out of the process all the way. But I think in small business, where there's a lot of value, is you have people wearing multiple hats. And so there's some hats that you're excited to wear, and there's other hats that you kind of begrudgingly wear because you're a small business and there's only 3 people to do the work. And so what's nice is you can have something like an AI that maybe doesn't have 100% fidelity, and it may not get everything right, but if it can get 90% right, it still saves you time, and you're right there along with it to come back and pick up the extra 10%. And so, an example I give that I think a lot of people are doing is, you think about writing. So you're writing emails as an example, right? That's one of the use cases I hear a ton. People leverage it to help them craft a better email. You're not, if you've ever just told AI, write me an email and then just taken whatever it sends, you know that it doesn't always do a great job of sounding superhuman. But it can, elevate your writing. And so the people that are getting the best power out of this are figuring out, hey, I'm going to do a draft and then I'm going to have the AI clean it up, or maybe it does a first draft and then I'm cleaning it up. So it's sort of AI and humans kind of working together, but it keeps you from spending an hour trying to perfect an email, because AI can change that process. It doesn't do it 100%, but it gets you far enough down the path where now you're not spending as much time doing it. And I just think those kind of use cases pop up over and over again. And I think with a small business, it makes a lot more sense because you are wearing multiple hats. And really, when you think about the promise of AI, it's that general intelligence to come in there and say, like, I can tackle a lot of problems. Okay. And as it matures, you're going to see it tackle certain problems really well and do those things better than humans. But I think for small businesses, there's this really awesome opportunity to like pick up gains immediately by adopting it into routines. So that's the thing I'm really passionate about is I see this opportunity for people to be able to focus more on the parts of the work that they like and not have to get bogged down in the parts of the work they don't like. And that's going to be different for each person.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Brett, I mean, you and I are working on a project on lead generation, and you've brought in some AI, but you also have an employee involved in that process, because we looked at, hey, could we do 100% AI? And we
Right.
realized it was going to feel too computerized for the receiver of the emails and the LinkedIn and the text. And we wanted a person to humanize it a little bit. And talk about that. I mean, because she's using AI, but you're still a body in there, but she's much more productive now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all gotten those emails from campaigns, right? Where they're sort of like, "Hey, saw you on LinkedIn, and what you're doing seems really interesting." And there's not a lick in that communication that indicates they know anything about what you're doing, right? And it's these form outreaches that get sent out, but they're easy to do because you can automate them. And so it's sort of like I write the message once and I send it out to 1,000 people. But the reality is it doesn't really help connect, right? And so me as a receiver, I get that. I'm like, I don't know who you are. And you clearly don't know who I am. So yeah, what we're doing, so there is, the flip side of that is, do you have someone just handcraft every single message? And that's super time intensive. And the reality is, if you're just reaching out to somebody for the first time, they still may ignore it. So we're kind of doing a hybrid approach where she uses the AI to help her find out something more. So we have templates, but she uses the AI to help her find out something more specific about the company, right? It allows us to do a little bit of research very quickly and say, is this a good fit to outreach to, first off? But then second off, what do I actually think they'd be interested in? The AI helps shortchange that process so she's not spending 30 minutes per outreach figuring out who this person is. She can do that in about 5 minutes. But also, we're not sending them something that's completely irrelevant because it's just a very generic, I think you're a great person in some undescribable way. So
I know. You get those, and it's like, okay,
me,
please.
right?
It's like, you get those stupid emails. It's like, please.
If you get an email on LinkedIn that says, "I'm super impressed with your," okay, all right,
Right,
whatever.
right.
Yeah, right.
It's like, tell me what it is, because I don't even know what I'm impressed about.
Tell me, what is that? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like if I had one recommendation for people, like thinking about how to incorporate I would say bite the bullet, pay the $20 a month for a tool like the basic Chat GPT account. And you can get the freebie version, but it doesn't connect to the internet. And so while it is great in providing a lot of information, you get that little bit of lift from paying that $20 a month, and now it's searching the internet for you. I mean, frankly, I've used it. I've replaced Google because, I mean, too often with Google, you search for something and the company you're searching for is actually the fifth or sixth thing listed because someone else outbid the keywords.
Yep.
And so it's a great way to sort of say, like, this is who I actually want to know about. And the AI just filters out all of that stuff.
So
Yeah, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Benny.
Well, you kind of were, you hit something, a chord with me in there in terms of like, what you were talking about, how you're using it. I was just curious to know, do you have like an approach that you suggest for people to be able to come up with ideas? Because you said it a few minutes ago, and I 100% agree with you. It's like it's gonna be different for everybody. Like what would be really important for Dennis, may not have as much weight for me because my business is different. But is there an approach that you suggest for folks to maybe figure out, how you could incorporate AI most effectively for them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I can walk you through, and I do, workshops like this with clients, but it's a process that you can do on your own well. And I have a lean process improvement background, and so that's
Mm,
kind of the approach I take. But what I would say is, for someone thinking about how to get started, list out all the stuff you do. List out
mm.
all the stuff that makes your business work, right? And so if it's you and a couple other people, just list out, here's the day-to-day task, here's the weekly task, the monthly task.
I mean, go all the way down to what systems you use, all the Excel
Exactly.
spreadsheets you
Exactly.
do, all
It's
the
just everything,
all the
everything you're
emails
using, right?
that you have to do repetitively, all that kind of stuff. Just get that list started.
Yeah.
Is where I'm like, Brett, and it'll be an eye opener to you when you do it, because you're going to realize, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I touch or do, and some of them you need to be involved, but there's some of them that's where that AI could come in and make things a little easier for you.
Yeah, and I think there's really an awesome opportunity there because it doesn't have to just be like, well, here's where I could get the most lift. Part of this is like, what do I enjoy doing versus what do I not enjoy doing, right? Like, hey, this piece of work takes a lot of my time, but I also really like it. So, yeah, maybe that's not where you're first looking at how to incorporate AI, but hey, this thing over here or this piece of the work I do, I really don't enjoy doing it but it has to get done. And that's, to me, like that's the place you start looking at, where do I incorporate AI? And so, um, I'll give you a good for instance. We do at my wellness company, we try to post local. We kind of split it up between stuff that's provided from national resources and sort of local pictures of our studio, showing people kind of enjoying the services that we provide, that sort of thing. But sometimes we're using images. And so you really, it used to be that often we'd be in a situation where it's like, well, we can't really provide an image. Like we got to get a picture of somebody doing something because, I can't use a copyrighted image unless I'm going to go get the rights and all that. But that's the nice thing about AI is these aren't, I'm not using AI necessarily to create a photo I need copywritten. It's just for a fun post on Instagram. And so it's a great opportunity to just say like, well, if I don't have time to get the picture, I can just have AI create an image for me. And it can be a photorealistic image. But now all of a sudden I can use that for my caption for whatever the fun thing is I'm trying to post on Instagram. And so rather than, now I've got to get 2 or 3 staff members to figure out when they're going to take the picture, it's just a quicker way to get something posted. But so that, that's the kind of thing I would just encourage people to look for is where is there stuff that they either don't have time to do or that they don't enjoy doing, and then start envisioning where the AI can help supplement that process. And typically most of the stuff we look at is where is it helping with writing or where is it helping with images? We've got all this agentic stuff that's coming around. I think I'm really excited about where that's going to go. A lot of that stuff is browser based. So especially if you're working with systems that are browser based, I think I think most of us are working more and more in systems that are operating out of your browser, which really makes it easy to plug in an agentic AI, um, and start training it to do some of the work for you, especially if you've got key tasks that you can kind of have it, ride along with you while you do it a few times till you sort of get it where it's able to do more things on its own.
So, Brett, what are some of the AI tools that you use day in and day out? What are some of the
Yeah, I mean, I like Claude when I'm looking for something to help me. If I'm, doing a project and there's something that needs coded, I'll use Claude. If I'm looking more for just that internet searching, I found that Open AI is really probably the best one. I don't use Perplexity as much, although I've heard great things about its research capability. So I would say if you're trying to do deep dives, Perplexity is probably the tool that you want to use. Um, I'm a big fan. If you're doing images, I think Dolly is probably the best model out there for that. Crayon's another one I've used, but I feel like Crayon's a bit more difficult
Mhm.
to work with to get it quite to have it give you quite what you're looking for.
Yeah,
Um,
Benny, what do you use, and which ones are your
M-
top go tos
Believe
lately?
it, right now, I'm telling you, one that I've actually played around with, and I'm really kind of impressed with. I don't know, Brett, you may have had some experience with this one with Abacus AI. It's kind of it's an aggregator of like all the different types of LLMs,
yeah,
and so it'll be able to tap into some of the OpenAI models and Gemini and Claude, and if you use it in chat mode, it actually, depending upon the question, the context you're giving it, it might route it to one particular LLM because that one's going to do it better. And so I'm having some fun with it, and I
yeah.
can do images and and um and one of the features I love because I subscribe to OpenAI too as well is like you can have a conversation with the AI. You can do that with Gemini on
Right.
Google as well, and then Abacus does that as well. So all of these type of things, you probably I don't want to put words in your mouth, Brett, but I think that there's just this changes literally every day, right? And it's
It
so hard to
does.
keep up with it. But for those who aren't even doing it, just do something with it, right?
That's
Exactly,
right.
and
That's right.
like I said, we haven't talked about this topic for about 6 or 8 weeks, and I mean, you just mentioned some new ones that you guys have not used before, or that weren't
Yeah,
here 6 or 8 weeks ago. So, the key thing for the listener is, just keep looking out there. To Brett's point, you got to try it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt you. Um,
hmm
uh, I think we had a guest on a few weeks ago. My email I put at the bottom, her tagline that I agreed with her was, this email may be 80% AI, but it's 100% human reviewed. And I think that's the key piece you still have to remember is that you're going to use AI, but you're still going to have human involvement in many of these things,
yeah,
especially if it's related to communication,
Yeah.
messages out
Absolutely.
to employees or customers and all that kind of stuff. Because if you make it all AI driven, it loses some of the touch. There's certain
yeah.
things that you still own that the AI hasn't taken over yet from you. So
And
this is cool.
one of the tips I'll give to just like so because I will say, and I'm sure other people have heard this before too, right? Like sometimes when you're wanting to know what AI can do, you can ask the AI, right? So you can ask AI
Yeah,
what AI tools are out there, right? And
Yeah.
it'll say
yeah,
like, here's the stuff that I
yeah,
found.
Yeah.
And so what I think's interesting about that is, and I would encourage people to keep in mind that AI, we kind of personify it a little bit, right? We call it artificial intelligence, and so there's this sort of notion that well, it's thinking the same way that a human thinks, and so it's drawing these same conclusions the same way that a human might draw those conclusions. But in the reality, I mean, it's an algorithm working behind the scenes, right? And so it's essentially a very complicated math problem that's being solved. So
hmm
it's important to keep that in mind too. That just because AI gives you an answer and it's not the answer you're looking for, it may be super obvious to you. Like, well, obviously, if it was a human I was asking, it would have made the logical leap to know to do this, right? If it says it couldn't find the what I was looking for, it would have known to look this other way. But AI may not have gone there because it's really just it's an algorithm that's predicting what an output needs to look like. And so I would highly encourage people if they don't like an answer, just ask it again and say like
yeah,
I don't like that answer, give me a different answer, and it
yeah,
will, and you can have it look for things or do things in a way that you would never ask a person. Like if a person gives you an answer, you don't say like, well, your answer's no good. I'll try again. Give me
Well,
another
some
one.
people
Right.
do.
Some people
Right.
do.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I mean, because it's like I use ChatGPT and I'll write an email and it's like, okay, now make it fun. Now make it if I'm
Yeah.
mad. I mean, it's
Yeah,
you would
exactly.
never ask an employee to write
Yeah.
5 different
Make a-
emails, but it's like, I can do it in less than 30 seconds and it's like, this is kind of fun. And I can figure out, okay, which one do I like the best? And
Well,
that's
Yeah.
what I pull over.
And Brett made a good point too, as well, is that we have different, if you don't like the answer that you got from, say, ChatGPT, try Perplexity out, try
Exactly.
Gemini out. And that's the beauty of this environment. There are literally hundreds of thousands of, people think there's maybe like 5 or 6, there are literally hundreds of thousands of different LLMs out there. And it's crazy. They all have different personalities, different approaches, but I find them to be really, Brett, maybe I'll ask you this question: is that you know the idea? I love your idea in terms of like just taking notes down and things that you do during the day. But there are certain things, especially we as small business owners, we haven't been able to include into our business. Maybe we're just not really strong in social media, or we haven't written any white papers on a topic because we didn't have the time, we didn't have the resources, didn't have the money maybe to put stuff together. Now with the AI, that kind of is a game changer for us. And would you suggest like sitting down with AI to ask, hey, what are some other things that other people are doing, or maybe some things I'm not doing with my business that can help further it and grow it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny you mentioned that because I do that all the time, right? I will ask for lists of like, what are some resources that I might use for this, right? Or like, what are some different approaches I could do for this thing? And and sometimes the answers are good, sometimes the answers aren't so good. But then I take the things I like and I ask it to elaborate more. And it's just like a brainstorming session, right? That's probably of all the things I use AI for. That's the one I've probably found the most valuable. Is it helps me brainstorm because it's not just my mind. I'm just I'm getting stuff for me to react to,
Hmm.
and I can adjust or follow up on the things that make sense, and I can ignore the things that don't make sense. But yeah, I do that all the time where you just ask it like how else might I approach this problem? And what's nice is too, you can ask it if it gives you an idea for something. You can ask, well, how could I use AI with that, right? Like,
Mm.
I want to do more with social media, and I know I'm not doing a good job there. Give me 5 tips. Well, here, blah blah blah. Well, how might I leverage AI to help me with that? And so when you get down to the nuts and bolts, sometimes there's going to be some experimentation. And so, if you aren't really keen on experimenting because maybe that's just not the stuff you want to spend your time on, there are ways you can shortcut that, or you go pick those things that feel like they're going to be require the least amount of experimentation. But if you've got time, then yeah, I think just experimenting with things to see like where is it helping me the most improve my workflow.
Yeah. No, I mean, Benny, you opened my eyes to it 3 years ago. And I mean, it makes life a lot and Brett, you hit on that. It's that brainstorming piece. It's like
Yeah,
just, I would come up with 2 ideas. This thing will come up with 25 ideas and I can narrow it down and say, okay, I like these 10 that I want to dig into more and think about. And Brett and I are working on stuff together on several different projects, and we reference that frequently. That him and I come up with ideas, but then we get turned to AI for okay, how could we do this differently, or what's out there
Right.
that we hadn't thought about.
yeah, and I think Dennis, when you talk about that, like helping it coming up with 25 ideas, that's one thing I always think about too. Is like when I use it is, hey, if what I really want is to think through 10 ideas, I'm going to ask it for 20 because I'm not going to like some of the stuff, but that way I've got more than enough to work with, and I just cut out like, well,
Okay.
these 5 are non-starters because of A, B, C. I'm not interested, or I don't think they're feasible, or it's too hard to do. But hey, these 5 are something I hadn't thought about before, right?
Yep.
And then these 10, maybe like now I can kind of decide between these 10 which ones I want to keep and further explore versus which ones I want to get out. So definitely always recommend that. Ask it for more than what you need, and then it becomes easier to just cut out and get to what's going to work for you.
That's awesome.
Dennis will tell me from time to time that there's some topics he has to reel me back in on this one. And AI is obviously one that I'll just keep going on and on about. And if the 3 of us were sitting in the coffee shop, we would be there for hours and they'd kick us out because we would be
That's right.
talking so much. But for those who are listening, Brett, what's some advice that you might give them in terms of integrating AI in their small business and how it could help them?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I would say is if you're not using it at all today, find some small way to try it out. It's all about experimentation, and the sooner you start getting comfortable with it, the sooner you're gonna start finding those ways to fit it into your routine. So just try it, right? Find something small to try it on, and even if it only marginally helps you out, it'll get you down the path.
It'll get you hooked. I'm telling you. Once you get started,
Exactly.
as you can see from these two, and I'm guilty as well.
Yeah.
It's just before we jumped on here, my wife asked me to make cream of chicken soup, and so I put in there. How do I do it? It put the recipe out there, print it all out. I've got the thing, and I can run to the grocery store and buy the stuff when we get done. I mean, that would have taken me, 15 minutes. This one took me 30 seconds to do it.
I think if people need to go back to some of the archives of our show and listen to when I introduced AI to Dennis, and Dennis was a little skeptical to where we are today, it's a little different.
It's a lot different. So.
Yeah. So, Brett, I know that a lot of people are going to have some questions for you, and they might want to, ask for some advice, whether it be anything to do with like lean process improvement, or they want to talk about AI, or heck, they might want to talk to you about, pest control and owning other businesses.
Right,
How do I
right.
do all that? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
I mean, you can certainly reach me at my phone number, 615-305-7416. Or feel free to email me at bwade@ai-solutions-consulting.com.
Fantastic. Brett, obviously we're going to have to talk more about this again, but thank you so much for stopping by and being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate being here.
Take care, Brett. Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, Dennis, that's another podcast in the can. I know that a lot of you all want to know how to get in touch with us. Dennis, what's the best way for folks to be able to get a hold of you?
Yeah, email's by far the best for me. It's Dennis J, so DENNISJ @worksolution.com, and that's WORX solution, no S at the end, so solution.com. Benny, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. Get a hold of me. My email address is benny@velocitytechnology.group. That's BENNY @velocitytechnology.group. Also, for me and Dennis, you can find us on LinkedIn. Look for us on LinkedIn. Our Work From Home with Two Guys is on LinkedIn. And we also have a website, WFH2guys.com. Look us up. You'll find all the past episodes and some little bits of information that maybe we don't get a chance to talk to on the podcast. We put it out there too as well.
And definitely share us with your friends and people in your network.
Absolutely. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast your podcast. Give us some ideas. If you'd like to be a guest, let us know. We'll talk to you guys soon.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.